Last Friday right here on the channel, I broke down some coverage rules that will help you guys defend the underneath routes in this game that a lot of players struggle with from match coverage. In particular, those pesky drag routes that seem to always get open against 3 receiver hooks. However, there are also rules in this game where your safety in an inside quarter will actually be responsible for a tight end or a solo receiver that is in a condensed, also known as a nasty split, running a drag. So in today's video, I'm going to break down exactly what you guys need to expect. So that way, when you're calling quarters, palms, cover 9, you know what your responsibilities are. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit that notification bell, grab out your pen and pad. Let's get after it. The first rule set that we're going to break down here today, that is probably one that you frequently have noticed if you ever call match in this game, is what occurs when a tight end runs a drag from a formation such as the bunch tight end or the trips tight end. These formations are aligned where the tight end is the furthest receiving option outside, he's in line, and he runs a shallow cross. So any coverage that we are playing from a quarters perspective is going to have this rule built in where this safety is actually responsible for getting down on a tight end drag. So a lot of times you'll find that if you're not using anyone at all, this becomes quite annoying because you end up with him being super late to the match, and then people will just throw that drag across the field. Now, if you're in a play like quarters, for instance, you'll have a situation where this quarter flat on the other side can at least be there to prevent this from being a catch and run up the field for major yardage. As you see right here, the tight end is wide open because the safety who is trying to match him is late to the party, but at least he's there to at least prevent this from being thrown and run up the field for 30 yards. However, if you're calling palms or a cover 9 style defense where you're going to have all the zones on the trip side of the field matching vertically, and somebody were to run this concept out of a trips tight end formation, you're going to be in a ton of trouble because that quarter flat on the left is no longer just hanging out. He's responsible for going vertical with the middle receiver. As a result, you end up with that same late safety, but nobody there to tackle him. And this oftentimes becomes a touchdown in a simple throw against match defenses. To make this worse, you also have to worry about this against trips tight end as well. Essentially, you look at the offensive alignment. If you have a running back and a tight end, and then the other side is trips, you have to be aware of that tight end running that drag route. So you see right here in this example, well, once again, in quarters, if this tight end runs a drag, you got to watch that safety on the top right. He's the one that has to match. So a lot of times the hike throw drag is going to be wide open. As a result, I have to make modifications when I'm facing these types of formations that will make it so the safety is not late to the party, which before I show you guys the counter I use for this, make sure that you guys open up another tab and head over to my strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg. If you love the match content here on the channel, you are sure to love my match coverage Bible, in which I break down all the rules for quarters, palms, cover 6, cover 9, cover 3 match, and even cover 2 match against formations of all different types. In every single one of my match videos that I do right here on the YouTube channel, you're going to find people that have questions about things. Hey, I'm giving up a drag or a flat or some sort of route out of this. Look, in my match Bible, we go through all of these responsibilities for every player on the field, so you guys know not only what you are supposed to guard when you're using, but also what to expect from the other AI players on the field around you. That way you know if you're going to need to switch stick, if there's any type of alerts, and I also have hybrid coverage setups like the one I'm about to give you guys in that game plan as well, so you're better equipped to defend these things and just know what your formulas are when somebody comes out in a certain offensive formation. You guys will unlock this coverage Bible in addition to everything else on the website, which honestly, I haven't even gotten to our vault yet. That is a weekly updated service that is going to keep you on top of the pro metas. That is what the pro players are running, how it works, and how to counter it at no additional charge. You get everything on the website for $14.95 per month, and that includes Discord access where you guys can ask questions, join our over 3,000 member community in there, ask each other questions, find lab partners, and attend our lab sessions, which are recorded and uploaded to the website, taking your questions about the game, labbing them live, and getting you guys answers on the spot so you can get on with winning more games, spending less on packs, which is what we're all here for, right? So make sure that you guys go check it out, link in the description. All right, guys, so how do I deal with these tight end formations where you have trips to the other side, tight end aligned, running a drag, and this safety is basically responsible for him? Well, there's a couple of different things that we can do. The first thing that we could do is what I call starting the engine. A lot of times in this game, match comes down to just the computer's late. You see that they kind of drift off into space, and then it's, oh, I got to match him. And then they're open by 10 yards. Well, what you can actually do with this is what I call starting the engine or getting your motor running. And that's just get your momentum going into the place that you need to, and then switch stick off your player. So when somebody does this, ball snapped, I start running and then I switch stick. And you see that that allows him to be on that route a little more tightly. They're not going to throw that and pick up 10 yards on that throw. What they actually look at is us starting the AI, getting them going on this and then clicking off. Okay. So we're not going to cover that manually. We just want to get him matching and running in the direction he needs to be. That way, if they decide to throw this, they're throwing this into a bracketed look. If they throw it back shoulder, they're throwing it into the guy that's trailing him. If they throw it as a pass lead to the outside, you're going to end up with the quarter flat being able to pick it. So now they're going to have to start to glance elsewhere. And then from there, it's all about knowing your rules. So in this particular instance, I switch stick over to this guy. He doesn't have anybody to match. So what I would do is I would kind of come down and, you know, if I were actually baiting on this play, I would bait 88 on this dig over the middle. So we're just starting the engine on this. The other thing that you guys can do in a situation like this is just say, you know what? I don't want you to have to read the field. I want you to just hard code you to the tight end. A lot of people are going to say, well, Zan, this is dangerous, right? Because you're removing the matching rules for this guy. Kind of. But also in this game, there is what we call a redistribution rule. Kind of watch what I'm about to show you here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to run a concept in which I'm just going to have basically 3 vertical attacking routes and then a drag. Because we have the tight end already matched or manned up by the safety, this outside defender here now will look across the field to try to find the next thing that he can match. As a result, I can also help out by walling off with this 3-rec hook over the middle to make it so they don't have a hike throw to beat. And I can just drop him off. And you see how he picks him up as he crosses the field. And what that does in the meantime is this allows us to not have them throwing to this drag because 1, our user's kind of there, and 2, we've already manned it up. And then over here on this side, the check down is handled. And then what we have is the outside quarter on this side of the field looking for something else to match vertically, which there's nothing on his side. So he's going to now cheat to the other side and look for something else to match. Meanwhile, over the top here, we're matching on the post and the streak. And we look pretty good here as we get a coverage sack. So this is a hybrid call. You have a different option. You guys can get your motor running, or you can just straight up say, you know what, I'm gonna man up the tight end. And for what it's worth, you could also do this with this corner here. So if you wanted to do it like this and your opponent runs the exact same thing, you'll actually see a redistribution. Remember that safety that's supposed to guard the tight end drag? Well, he's no longer going to do that because it's already manned up. Now he's matching that B receiver, which I don't have my main starting safety in here. I have somebody who's considerably faster, not giving up 4 or 5 speed there. That's going to be guarded if you have, you know, the right athlete at that spot. But at least the rule set here is playing true in this. Essentially, when you man up somebody individually within match coverage, no other matching zone is going to say, you know what, I'm going to take him too. They look for somebody else to match. So we're essentially in this particular instance saying, you know what, we're just going to redistribute everything. Let's ruin this rule for the safety so he plays smarter. Now I can hang out in the middle of the field, guard that dig to the backside. The drag is handled because we manned it up with a better player, honestly, too, in a corner against a tight end. That's an advantage for us. Regarding the flat check down, the crosser is walled off by our user and then matched by the safety because he doesn't have to match the drag. I can then bait the backside dig at the top of the screen or the post, and we're in a perfect spot from a coverage standpoint. This is a really, really good adjustment. So that is one particular rule for defending drags in this game. But believe it or not, there are far more than just that a lot of players are unprepared for. Let's go to one of the most prominent offensive formations in the game, which is the gun bunch X nasty. Now in this particular offense, there is what we call a nasty receiver or a condensed split receiver. You're starting to hear color commentators on the television call nasty splits out. This is basically where you have a receiver that would normally be aligned all the way out on the sideline, now lined up in the slot. And with this particular call here, what you'll notice is that if you're playing quarters and somebody wants to, you know, like do like a flood with a backside drag, you have this drag. And you see that the safety has to cut that drag as well. Now, this is actually a really cool rule against this because, once again, you're going to notice that this does a pretty good job, even better than what it did against the tight end. And that's for a couple of reasons. If you go back to the examples where we had the tight end drag, the reason it was so poorly guarded by the safety is that basically the tight end was in next to the offensive tackle. This guy's out a good 5 yards further, which means that the safety realizes that he needs to match it at the correct timing. So at this point where this receiver's dragging over the middle, the safety is actually in an okay spot. Imagine that this was from the tight end position though. He would essentially be right here when the safety realized what he needs to do in a trips tight end or a bunch tight end formation. And that's why the tight end drag out of trips tight end or bunch tight end is so much harder to defend. In this example though, you see that this particular player is able to be cut by the safety, which again will redistribute this guy's match responsibility. In this particular case, this could be a challenge, however, because this particular corner needs to then turn and run back with a tight end streak. Now, this is where this gets really, really weird, okay? I've moved this ball just a little bit. We are now on the left hash. So now we've moved this back a little bit, and I've actually put the ball all the way on the left hash. And what you're gonna see with this example is that when you're on the hash, this rule set almost will fail on you, okay? So I'm gonna show this to you again here. I snap this ball. Notice here how the outside corner now matches this. If this is something that you guys want, great, but just be advised that that is a hash mark rule. If I put this ball back in between the hashes, like I'm gonna put it in the middle or as close to the middle as I can here, and I go to this particular call yet again, you will see that the safety cuts it, okay? So again, when you're not perfectly on that hash mark, this could be a little bit weird. Now I am going to move this so it is closer to the hash mark, and I will set up that exact same call again. So basically something like this, and I'm gonna snap this ball, and you're gonna see that again, now that safety is taking it. And this throw over the top can sometimes be a little bit more dangerous. But the minute this ball is perfectly on the hash, this rule goes away for whatever reason. Now, me personally, I like to have the safety cutting this drag, but it does come with some issues when we go to do redistribution. If I man up McKinney on this guy, the game will actually ignore that. And this will be one of those rare instances where the redistribution does not work for that outside corner. So what you'll see is the corner and the safety both take him, and then you have this guy wide open down the field because you didn't have that redistribution. So please make sure that you guys are being very, very careful with this. One thing that you can do is man up this guy and then put this player into an outside third. Now, will that help with a situation where Bowers is running a streak and then you have a slot fade in a corner with a drag? Probably not as much as you really want it to. The reason I say that is that that backside third is still not going to see Bowers down the middle of the field unless you get pressure. That's going to be a touchdown every single time. So you have to be super, super careful with this, okay? What you could do in theory with this is just allow this corner to play the drag on his own. And if he's late on that drag, go ahead and put him in man-to-man so he's hard-coded to play it. Or you could go ahead and do the start the motor trick where you guys will go ahead and basically take the first couple steps inside and then switch stick off. And then you'll see that he'll at least be on that. And now I can cheat to that seam on my own with this. Again, either of those are totally fine and totally acceptable rules. Now, everything I've been breaking down here has been safeties cutting drags or their responsibility to guard drags. This is really, really important that you guys understand that this is not just quarters and palms. This also applies to split field coverages. As I've told you guys time and time again, my motto for Madden 26 and even college football 26 is simply put, you do not run enough cover 9. And with the cover 9 defense, you are going to have the cover 2 side to the bunch side and the cover 4 side to the back side. So again, this comes with the same rule set. If we're on that hash mark and they're running, you know, the flood combo that we were just talking about, that corner is going to take him. And in a lot of cases, you're not going to have a quarter flat on the other side ready to take that drag. So that becomes a little bit dangerous. So if they're peppering that drag on you and you need help in that flat, you most certainly need to get into probably a palms or a quarters against this look if X on the drag is what's bothering you. If we get off this hash a little bit where it's not perfectly on that hash mark and they're doing that exact same thing, you need not fear, because now you're going to have that safety in a spot where he's going to be chasing. Now, again, the problem is there's still a lot of junk to travel through. So you have to be super careful with this. If they're on that hash mark though, it's going to be the corner. If they're off the hash mark, it's going to be the safety. And again, what I like to do when I'm dealing with somebody that is, you know, peppering those drags is I just start the motor. Again, starting the motor, we run and we switch stick. And now he's in a good spot. I'm helping out over the top. Everything else looks pretty well handled. Okay. As long as the guys don't bump into each other, that's kind of our, you know, the main thing that can hurt you. Now, again, I don't want to get too crazy with this, but you know, if you're starting the motor, if you're doing the man ups, they're still winning on their routes. It's really, really obnoxious and you need more help. I would probably just say, okay, I know I'm getting match out of Urlocker, Matthew, and Talib. I'm not really going to have any of them hanging out on the right side for a drag to CD land. You could just say, you know what? Let's rush 3. Let's put Micah there. I'll start my engine. Ball snapped. I switch stick. There it is. And it looks much better this way. It's bracketed. Everything's handled. You could still get sheds rushing 3 in this game. And that's a solid way to kind of counter that, okay? So I hope that I kind of explained well in this video how safeties actually have to guard drags in this game. This is something a lot of players are not aware of. I'm trying to do more content here on kind of like the fringe. It's not even really the fringe. It's the check down game. Match is so good at taking away posts and corners and streaks and deep routes. And then players have to fall back on the dink and dunk game. And that's where a lot of match players maybe fall off a little bit, is just understanding what's happening to them underneath. I know that for me, it's probably taken me the last 3 or 4 weeks to really hammer the underneath stuff, and I'm happy to share it with you here on the channel. So if you guys enjoy it, make sure you are subscribed. Check out Gridiron Game Plans for the rest of the game plan. Otherwise, we'll just keep hammering it here on the channel. I hope you guys will make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, this is Zan. Get in the lab and good luck.